And precisely as David reminded, I've written a very long book which in several volumes with 3,000 pages, which is a very big history of political ideas from antiquity to now. So, and of course, it took years for me to do that. And during all these years, I could see this Western culture being built, because it was built in very precise steps. You know, cultural evolution, as biological evolution, is not continuous. It is made by steps, or by leaps, by what some theorists call evolutionary leaps. And I could see that reading the books in Plato, Aristotle, St. Thomas, St. Augustine, and Locke, and so on. At each step, you have thinkers who have not exactly invented ex nihilo the concept of state or the concept of liberty, but they have certainly thought something about these concepts, which have made them clearer and evident for everybody. And this is the mystery of spirit. So I think that this history is a spiritual history. It would be the topics of another talk to explain the history, because also material parameters play a role in human history. But I do think that, contrary to Marx, that once the man has a brain, he's able to think of what he wants to be. And he never succeeds totally to achieve what he wants. But what he becomes is not only by chance. It is partly by construction. So my conclusion was that in the history of the West, you have 5 great evolutionary leaps, not 6, nor 4. So it was a reason of the success of my little book among the students, because the students like to have a clear scheme. And these leaps are, it's not very original, because these leaps are Athens, Rome, Jerusalem. So the Greek have invented the secular state, in fact, and the very idea of the liberty under the law. Individual liberty, you are individually free if there exists a public law that you know in advance, and which doesn't aims at you in particular, but which aims at everybody. And once you know the law, you know what is forbidden and what is allowed, so you can drive yourself, your own life. So they invented that, and they invented also democracy and public discussion on the agora, and it's why also they invented science, because other people before had knowledge about nature, but this knowledge did not take the form of a knowledge of the laws of nature. And the Greek, because they could, it would take a long time to explain exactly, but the Greek were destroyed by conquerors in 1200 before Christ. And after that, you had the Dark Ages, because writing disappeared, and it is called the Greek Middle Ages. And after that, a new type of society appeared, which was no longer a sacred monarchy as before, and they were obliged to create republics, because they could agree on they could no longer agree on a religion. So they were obliged to agree on things that they had discussed rationally. And this necessity for the orators in the agora to prove what they want to be decided made possible the invention of rationality, the logic, the necessity to present arguments in a logic way. And also, it gave them the idea that as the citizens of the city can live together peacefully because they all obey the law, in the same way, the natural elements, the moon, the sun, earth, and seas and rivers, are in harmony together because they obey also to laws, which are the laws of nature. So they began to look for these laws of nature. It was the birth of science. So they invented the natural science, physics, and chemistry, and medicine, and also social sciences, and also grammar and things like that. And as they had invented the science, they invented also the school, because before you have science, the school is not useful. School is useful to transmit to the new generations what have been acquired by the preceding generations. So that is the Greek evolutionary leap, and all Western society today have inherited that through different mediations. The next, and this is well known because it is a Greek miracle, and I like this term miracle because it means that it doesn't mean supernatural, but it means some thing that was not necessary. There was and nobody can say why this was discovered at this time in this place. So it's a kind of miracle. And the second is the Roman law. Many people speaking about Europe say that Europe springs from Athens, Rome, but in Rome it is especially Roman law, and I just explain in a few words, because the Romans had conquered the world, the known world, and they were confronted with a kind of globalization, in fact, because it was the first great multi-ethnic state. Before, it was not exactly the first, because before you had the Hellenistic states, which were also, in a way, multi-ethnic, but they were not centralized. And in Rome, you had a lot of people coming from many ethnies, Gauls, Syrians, or Africans, and they all had their own culture. So when they wanted to cooperate, there were conflicts and ambiguities, and even though each of them were of good faith, they believed that the other would behave in a certain way. They expected that the other would behave in a certain way, and the other had not the same culture, so he behaved differently. So this question became difficult in the 3rd century before Christ, and the Romans take a prophetic decision in 242, we know the date, which was to create special magistrates to judge the conflicts between foreigners or between Romans and foreigners, because in both cases you cannot apply the Roman law, the ethnical Roman law, the law of querit, how do you say in English, le droit des quirites, comment ça se dit en anglais, querat. Anyway, it was the name of this original customary Roman law.